Good day. My name is Edward Angelo Eviota, Technical Support for Alloy CP Trading, and today we will be discussing the GrandStream product UCM6300 and its ecosystem. The main component is the UCM6300 IP-PBX. This is the hardware that powers the company's VoIP system and can include its security, conferencing, and much more. Next is the GrandStream Wave application. The next is UCM Remote Connect. And lastly, GDMS, which stands for GrandStream Management System. Our target markets are remote and hybrid workers, users who travel a lot, and lastly, multiple offices. Our products are usually ideal for small to medium-sized businesses, large businesses, and even government offices. So the UCM6300 is a cutting-edge answer to most companies, especially low or medium-sized ones, need to have a reliable system for VoIP, security, and other tools for the ever-changing workplace. Here are a few examples of the tools GrandStream provides that unifies all business communications needs on one network powered by our UCM6300. This includes a voice, video calling, conferencing, surveillance, remote working, mobility, web meetings, data and analytics, facility access, intercoms, and much more. UCM6300 has 4 different models, and I will be discussing the main differences between each one, but the first thing you can see right now is that UCM6301 and UCM6302 are small and portable enough to be placed around in any small space, while UCM6304 and UCM6308 are larger and both are rack mountable and needs to have a dedicated space to be stored safely. For UCM6301 and UCM6302, to simplify their differences, their respective capacities are listed in order. So for example, UCM6301 can handle up to 500 SIP users, while UCM6302 can handle up to 1000 SIP users. So 75 to 150 concurrent calls, 50 to 100 SRTP calls, SRTP which stands for Secure Real-Time Transfer Protocol, which means the calls are ciphered or secured. Next is 20 to 30 video conferences, 75 to 150 audio conferences. So for UCM6301 and UCM6302, I'll be discussing the rear ports for their respective devices, but the main differences between all models, and this includes UCM6304 and UCM6308, is that their last digit pertains to the number of FXO and FSX ports the unit has. So for example, for UCM6301, it only has one FXO port and one FSX port. Aside from that, it has DC 12 volts input, 1 gigabit WAN port, 1 gigabit LAN port, 1 gigabit heartbeat monitor port, and a port used for grounding. For UCM6302, as you can see, the rear ports are nearly identical except for the number of FXO and FXS ports. For UCM6302, it has 2 FXO ports and 2 FXS ports. Both UCM6301 and UCM6302 has a 320 by 240 colored LCD screen with touchscreen for shortcuts and scroll bar. Their front ports are slightly different, So for UCM6301, it has one USB 3 port and one SD card slot. For UCM6302, it still has the USB 3 port and the SD card slot, but it has an extra USB 2 slot as well. We will now be discussing UCM6304 and UCM6308. As with the previous slides, the lower capacity pertains to UCM6304, while the larger capacity pertains to UCM6308. So with the larger size, it means that the units can now host larger processing power. So these models can now accept up to 2000 to 3000 SIP users, 300 to 450 concurrent calls, 200 to 300 SRTP calls, 60 to 80 video conferences, and lastly, 200 to 300 audio conferences. We will be discussing the rear ports for UCM6304, and as you can see, it still has the grounding port, the gigabit WAN port, 1 gigabit LAN port, 1 gigabit heartbeat port, and the 4 FXO ports and 4 FXS ports. The changes from the UCM6301 and UCM6302 is that these models has redundant DC 12 volt inputs. So for UCM6308, as you can see, it still has the same DC 12 volt redundant input, while it now has 8 FXO ports and 8 FXS ports. For UCM6304 and UCM6308, its LCD screen is a 128 by 32 graphic LCD with down and OK buttons at the side. Their auxiliary ports are two USB 3 ports and a SD card port. Here is the chart that summarizes the differences between each models respectively. With that, we are now finished with the main component, and we will now be discussing the second part of the ecosystem, which is GrandStream Wave App. It's a mobile and desktop application that provides remote voice and video collaboration tools utilizing UCM6300 series. It's ideal for remote workers, and it's an easy-to-use platform to join, schedule, and hold meetings, calls, and conferences from anywhere. It pairs with UCM Remote Connect, which is the other part of the ecosystem that we will be discussing. The GrandStream Wave app. It can be installed to Android, iOS, PC, and Mac. It has a feature where you can see the present status of its users. It supports headsets and webcams, an ability to schedule a meeting in full HD video and full HD audio as well. The third part of the UCM 300 ecosystem is UCM Remote Connect. It is a secure collaboration solution for remote workers. It is always on with automatic NAT firewall traversal to ensure secure connections by remote users. It's a zero-touch, out-of-box platform that allows remote users and devices to reach your UCM 300. UCM Remote Connect is a secure, reliable, and easy-to-use software. The cloud service provides 99.9% reliability by running on Amazon Web Services, otherwise called AWS, while offering zero-touch configuration and IT-friendly management. Here is a table of UCM Remote Connect's features. Since the product is recently released, it is continually being updated, so any changes or updates will be provided once the user buys a UCM6300 IP-PBX system. We will now be tackling the fourth part, which is GDMS. All UCM6300 series will be manageable from our cloud-based platform. This will allow our customers to deploy, configure, monitor, troubleshoot, and access to Remote Connect using GDMS. All you need to do to log into GDMS is to create a free account using GDMS Cloud, then associating your UCM6300 series UCM serial number and its MAC address. Then with that, you can now manage your UCM. Our main topics are now finished. So now we will now be discussing the frequently asked questions with regards to the UCM6300 series. One of the first questions we usually get is that, is GrandStream interoperable with other brands? Yes, GrandStream designs all of their products to be fully interoperable with IP-PBX, traditional PBX, soft switches, SIP-based platforms, and open-source-based telephony platforms. GrandStream is actively involved and welcomes the opportunity to work with the leading players in the telecommunications industry to ensure compatibility and interoperability with all SIP-based platforms. The next question is, can I restore a UCM6200 series UCM6510 backup to a UCM6300 series device? Yes. To do this, you need to log into your GDMS account and navigate to GDMS sidebar, UCMRC System, Storage, click on the Convert Config File button in the top right corner. Does GrandStream UCM6300 series support redundancy failover? Yes. The high availability feature is available on UCM6300 and UCM6300 audio series. So how does it work? You need to have two UCM6300, one in active role and the other in standby role. The two UCM must be the same model and the same firmware version. The data on the active UCM will be synchronized to the standby UCM in a real-time manner, and the standby UCM monitors the active UCM's running status regularly. When the active UCM runs into hardware or critical software issues, the standby UCM will take over immediately and become the active server. High availability feature supports automatic call recovery for UDP point-to-point calls and conference calls, allowing enterprises to communicate and collaborate without the hassle of service interruption. What's the maximum call recording storage time on the UCM6300 series? The call recording file is saved in WAV format. Normally, a 1-hour call is about 55 megabytes. Since the UCM6300 series internal memory storage is up to 128 gigabytes, theoretically, the maximum call storage time is around 2,300 plus hours. Next is, what's the maximum number of voice menu supported on the UCM6300 series IVR? Do we have any limitation on how many levels we could have? So, there's no limit to the number of IVRs that can be created, but the maximum level of the IVR voice menu is 5 levels. Finally, does UCM6300 series support SIP trunk? Yes, UCM6300 series supports SIP trunk. However, there is a limitation of one SIP trunk, multiple channels, per UCM. The reason behind this is because SIP trunk providers here in the Philippines uses SBC routers to provide private IP address for the routing of calls, and UCM only have two network interfaces. Thus, one SIP trunk is to one UCM. Registered SIP trunk is up to 50 SIP trunk accounts. And with that, our presentation is coming to a close, and it would help us greatly if you can check Alloy Philippines in Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can use the QR codes as seen on the screen, and thank you for participating. to our presentation. Goodbye.